Okay, I don't know if it was a first or second term. You'd have to remind me. But you and Jack Benson and the mayor faced being recalled. Okay, explain to me why. What happened?
Well, we raised taxes.
Okay,
That's a
and that was it.
well, that was the biggest part because some reason well, especially I think that some of the Republicans didn't like Ron because he was a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
against party, and they thought he was too liberal, which you know, and they I know that some of the one in particular that was ahead of that recall told me, he said, "Man, you got to vote against him." He said, "If you vote against that uh, tax raise," he said, "you'll be a hero. You just don't vote. Don't vote for everything he comes up with." But at that time, it was 2008, I believe, when the bottom fell out of the economy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
Yes.
bad. He
Yes.
come explain to us that, look, the economy is bad. We either going to lay a bunch of people off, cut services or something, but we got to raise taxes. And he wanted like 60 something cents, raise the tax. Said no, said we'll give you half. And I told him, I said, Ron, I'll, I'll vote for you this time, but I'll never vote for another tax raise. You have to cut corners, lay people off. I said, because in my district, and I represent my district,
Mm-hmm.
I said, my people can't afford it. And so I hated that I had to do that, but it was a situation.
Yeah. Oh, and did you? It was stressful. I can
Oh
remember
yeah,
it being that way. I don't know if you remember the story, but you and Mom were gone, and I was at the office, and we had the tinted windows there on
yeah,
Tennessee Avenue, and some skinny kid, he was a punk. He was in the paper about being, whatever the anti whatever movement was at the time. I don't know if you know this. He was going around with this little clipboard taking names for,
yeah.
and he walked up to our office, and of course, he couldn't see him, but he stood there for a minute with a big grin on his face. And I thought, man, you come in here, there could be two Ricos making the newspaper. But I was blown away at how I can't see. I think it's cowardice. I'll say that right off the bat of going after somebody. If they think there's strength in numbers, better men than me have died for things they believed in. But how did I mean, you take the good with the bad. Like you said, you became a media darling. Is that get you the other way when things go awry? Did you feel the heat?
No, because I think at the time the media was fair to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I didn't lie, and and I made some mistakes. And I know one time I said something in a meeting. I don't remember what it was, but it was pretty bad because I was driving down the road, listening to talk radio, and this the guy on the phone rang and I answered, and it was one of the talk host guys on the radio. He said, "Manny," he said, "I got a question to ask you." He said, "I'm gonna tell you right now, you're on the air, so you don't have to answer it." I said, "No, go ahead." He said, "Did you say such and such and such, or did they misquote you?" I said, "No, I said it. I shouldn't have, but I said it." Nothing else was said about it.
Oh,
The thing
okay.
about it is, if you'll own up to your mistakes,
Yeah.
it'll just go away. When you start trying to make excuses for why, you say, well, they took it out of context. What they start saying, well, he's trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Let's dig some more.
Yeah.
But when what got me on the recall, and some of my Republicans always said, "Man, you're voting wrong too many times." And I said, "Look, I represent a district, and I want Ron to help me get as much stuff for my district as he will let me. And unless it's immoral or illegal, I will vote for the stuff that he's trying to pass." And so, and then they didn't like that. But then that one night they was having a meeting, and then you could come up and air out your grievance after a council meeting, but you had 3 minutes, but you could only come up there twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this staunch Republican, he's coming there all the time, just complaining and talking about Ron and saying, well, he's sorry and doing that. And well, one night he came up there and he wanted to talk again, and I said, "No, you've already talked twice this month. You're not going to talk again."
I remember this
And he
guy.
said, "I'm going to talk." I said, "No, you cannot talk." And when the room was pretty crowded, they started, hey, come on, let him talk. Yeah, you got to let him talk. And it started getting heated. And that's when I got put in the gavel. I said, meeting adjourned, pow.
Yeah.
And the next day, I was on the recall list.
Yeah,
And that was a Republican.
Yeah, and the newspaper caught you pointing at him with the gavel.
Yeah.
Mom about died. I mean, Mom was like, "Oh my goodness," so I can't believe that he's done this. However, I always respected the fact that you were going to be all in. At the time, I would cringe and think, "Oh, you just be like other politicians. Just go about your business and enjoy the fruits of whatever it is and enjoy it." But I have to say, as I've gotten older, I would probably be worse. And I'll tell you why I'm worse. The reason I'm worse is because I have a father who showed me the way. But this guy, you had a conscience. Afterwards, you felt bad if people were upset.
Well,
you
sure
felt bad if they didn't like how you voted. I would make the vote, and I wouldn't care. I sleep like a baby. Because I think because I learned from you. I learned seeing what you went through. You can only do so much. If you vote, you're one of 9. You can only do so much. It's not like they make you king, like they say Donald's is now. But it's I think that I remember at the time, and I liked it when it got juicy. When you started making the front page, and because they eat that up, they really do. You're right. I think they were really fair with you, and you didn't hold back. Did you? Now you don't have to name names. But did you think that maybe some of the other people on the council didn't handle the heat very well when it came down on them?
Oh yeah, and too, well, before going further, let me state this: I did not one day say, "Hey, I'm gonna run for city council.
Right.
I think I'd be good." I sat in the office down there, Rico Monuments, and these 2 yellow dog Democrats.
I remember.
Walked in and said, "Buddy, we got an offer you can't refuse." I said, "What's that?" I said, "You going to run for city council?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm not. There's no way." They said, "Yeah, you are." And that's where it started.
Yeah.
But, and we had people in council. I know we had one person, I won't name the person, to protect the guilty, but she'd always want to vote last. Because, see, it took 5 votes.
Yes.
And she kind of wanted to see how it was going to go before she voted. And I shouldn't have said she. But anyway, that person always seemed on real hard decisions. She would vote last.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of them, I know for a fact there towards the end the term, there was some of them that were thinking about running for mayor, so they had a different agenda besides just making good, fair decisions.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, no, but I like when it got interesting is when you could pick up a paper and your father's there, controversial or not, But I hated because of the stress of it. And you remember, Mom got sick during that time too. When she first had her breast cancer, and that wasn't funny, because of people wanting to especially with the recall, they didn't really come close. I mean, it was you, Jack, and I think and the mayor, but they didn't really come close. I mean,
and I think that. The only reason they got Jack was because, he was such a good friend of the mayor. And then they had to pick me, so they couldn't say they was picking on white folks. So equal opportunity.
No, when I say that I would be better, I would say better because I watched and saw what you went through. Like you used to tell me, you said, learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have enough time to make all of them yourself. And it wasn't about mistakes, but it was about the fact of going, you do what you got to do in the light of it. Afterwards, time. Things pass. You have to vote how you feel. You have to say what you have to say, and then understand that you just live with it after that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it doesn't. I'm saying that it makes me better. I'm probably more of I'm not the most pleasant person in the world to deal with when I'm pressed, but I always thought you were very fair. And I think that the newspaper liked you because you were also gregarious. You were never a jerk. I'm a jerk all the time. You were always nice to people, and I'm not. But no, I always thought you were more than fair. I think, and I knew you would always tell the truth.
Well, I thought back to the media. Now they were fair in the reporting on what went on. How did they didn't put no spin on it. But if you remember, there was 2 pictures they always used. remember one that I didn't smile?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
if everyone kind of put a negative spin on it, they'd use the, mean Manny picture
Yes. Yeah.
and everything else was good, doing good in the civic world.
Yeah.
Everything, they put that big smile on me. And I know Mr. Wright, from the Y,
Yeah.
he didn't like. He said, "Don't you ever take your picture without smiling.
Yeah.
That's you, that smile on."
No, it was a life changer for me to witness you doing that, because that changed who you were. Before, you were a different guy. And you know this to be true as a younger man. It was about self. It was about Manuel.
Yeah,
But after you got into public office and you were serving people, that's when Manny was born. And Manny became a better man than Manuel was. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from way back.
Well, thinking back to the stress part, you had to go to these neighborhood associate meetings, and then when we went to the black part of town when they have them,
Yeah,
now that kind of got a little scary at times because
yeah,
they come in there. I know one time there was, and this is one time I think the media wasn't fair about it. Well, they wasn't fair or unfair. They just kind of didn't mention it. I was in a meeting and I was talking, and this one black gentleman got up and said, "Why don't you go back to where you come from?" And the reporter there was black,
yeah,
but never made the papers.
yeah,
And then again, another time we was out there at the same area, waiting. We was waiting to unlock the doors to go into a meeting, and this gentleman out there, black gentleman out there, standing there in the crowd, and he said, "I can't believe we elected illegal alien to represent us."
Well, let me tell you what that is, okay? 'Cause I don't want you to have to say it because you're too nice. You always used to accuse me of being too nice, and trust me, I'm not. That is ignorance. That is ignorance
Yeah.
and stupidity on both counts. And I'd call them out right now in a room and tell them that, because that's true. That is simply ignorance. You had to grow up dealing with racism. I never had to deal with any of that garbage, but that is awful. And let me tell you this too. Anybody of any other race today that says that to somebody else, they couldn't handle it if it was said to them.
Yeah.
They could not handle it. You were able to handle it. And you always brushed it off. I never understood that. I'm like Uncle Joe. Let's just go outside and fight.
Like say you consider the source.
Yeah.
Just like when there was that last year I was running, they were trying to gerrymander my district again, and they come up and this guy, I don't know how they city gerrymandered, but they do it so often. Well, and I think we had certain people that done that. Well, this gentleman come out there. He was from a black organization. He come up there, got on microphone. He's 3 minutes. Said, "Well, look, I have worked up a way that it should be done the way we think it should be done, and the way it was done, it was going to put more blacks in my district."
Yeah.
And I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "I am so sick and tired of this." He said, "White people have been over backwards to undo what the wrong they've done to y'all, and it's never enough." Well, the next day in the paper, in the metro section, it said, "Representative Tommy Brown asked Rico to step down." Well, I started getting phone calls. "Manny, are you going to step down?" I said, "No, I'm not stepping down." But things like that,
Yeah.
really get to you because it's so senseless. I have to put race in it, and and like I said, that's why we were Mexican. I was open season for everybody. Being crude to Mexican didn't count.
I agree.